I make it 7 o'clock, so we can start this. We want to get through. First thing is welcome, and it's good to have so many faces, both from the public and members. We used to having just a handful of people here, so this is okay. We have got a lot to get through tonight, unusually so. There's a number of applications, so we appreciate keeping things as brief as we can. I'm welcome to 6 members of the public, yes, and I believe you're speaking two separate applications.
Yeah.
Is there a spokesman, one for each then? Or
Well, could I just start us off? Is that all right?
you can do both, yes.
Will you promise take no more than 10 minutes? Right, we're allowed 15.
You're allowed three.
No, not each.
3 minutes each application.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just for people on the committee, really, as I say, we've got a lot to get through. It's not quite the Prime Minister's question, so we do have a format, we do have rules about the way we do things, and I'd appreciate if everybody sticks to that. In particular, in terms of raising the hand when you want to speak, and do that through the chair. And if more than one person wants to speak, then through the chair again, we'll do that in order. And please don't speak over each other, otherwise we end up with chaos. Okay, so can we start with the...
I'll start with the application 91052, which is for 6 wooden holiday huts and a hot food kiosk in Homebridge, opposite the Pickle Pleasant. I presume that everybody here knows Homebridge. I don't need to go into any details. There are a group of us who think that such a set of cabins, wooden huts in other words, would ruin the appearance and the visual amenity of Homebridge, which is a typical Yorkshire village, small village. The field that they're proposing to use was only just designated as an urban green space, UG 469, in 2019, so fairly recently. And apparently was supposed to be short of urban green space in Holme Valley South. These 6 huts would have 20 beds altogether, which means that there could be large groups of holiday makers around the centre, creating extra noise and disturbance in the centre of the village, both day and night. Now the hot food kiosk, which again is a wooden building, is directly opposite. It's not down in next to the football field. It's up directly opposite the pub, the Pickle Pheasant. It's a wooden hot food kiosk where the dustbins are now, hopefully, based on the application. I don't know if everybody's read that application yet. And personally, I think it would cause a big traffic hazard at the junction between the A6024 and Field End Lane, which is that comes onto the Woodhead Road at a very severe angle and downhill, Field End Lane, downhill at that bottom junction. And just as a final point, I noticed that in previous meeting you've actually refused somebody in Netherthong who wanted to put up yurts, similar holiday type accommodation. I don't know if anybody else from our group wants to add to that.
The only thing I'd say is with regard to the highway safety, obviously at weekends now, with the cricket and the football taking place especially, no parking facilities there because the Pickles Pheasant pub, that car park is generally full at weekends, so you get a cricket match on down there.
And it wants allowed parking.
Sorry?
It wants
They
allowed
don't allow-
parking for the car.
No, they don't. That's what I was just going to say. They don't allow parking for the cricket or the football. You've got obviously motorbikes more and more now, and since the Tour de France it's become a very, very popular cycle route with the iconic Home Valley Hill climb there. So altogether it's a very, very dangerous junction and bend as it is.
Yeah.
This would just exacerbate it, and it's just unsafe, it's as simple as that.
Could I just say, take 3 minutes, but already there are tables outside the Piddle Pheasant and people sit and stand there, and at times if you come down Field End Lane it's quite difficult to get round because, you know, it's not all the time, but if in good weather you get people just standing and sitting there, and it is actually the roadway, and sometimes it is difficult to get a good swing to get round that junction already.
They're also buying toilets as well, don't forget that.
Yeah.
And putting a food kiosk there, just
Next to
beggars
toilets.
belief really, in our minds.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so about 3 minutes.
thank you. And the other one was 91212, is
The
that
other
right?
one's the proposal to build 16 new houses alongside Bankfield, in a field alongside Bankfield Drive. That's 2023 91212. And right from the outset, I personally would like to see this application rejected outright on the grounds of road safety. This application, you may have already read it, has 70 pages dealing with wildlife in the proposed greenfield site, complete with Latin names of all the creatures. It has 59 pages dealing with one single tree in the corner of the site, a tree. And it has about 3 paragraphs dealing with the effect on road safety in the area. And to us residents, road safety is very important. The sections that deal with road safety in the traffic assessment is full of inaccuracies and omissions. And anybody who knows Homebridge will, somebody's nodded their head there, thank you. I've lived there 45 years, I'm a Cumbrian, as you might tell from my accent, but 45 years there's been numerous accidents on the junction between Bankfield Drive and Dogtop Road. For example, these are omissions in inaccuracy. The gradients of Bankfield Drive and Laidbank Drive, which are 1 in 5 and 1 in 6, are never mentioned in the application. These 2 streets will be the only way of accessing the new houses. Of course, they just say, oh, the access is along Laird Avenue, which is quite flat at the top. And although these 2 streets must have been acceptable when they were built in the 1970s, those houses, they wouldn't pass the latest 2019 these design criteria. Things have moved on since then. The criteria for road gradients, especially at road junctions, is now that there should be a 10-metre level standing before the junction, and then a maximum of 1 in 25 gradient away from the junction. And one of these points is actually to conform with the Equality Act of 2010 to do with people with poor mobility, elderly people, etc., etc. The road on Bankfield Drive, the road actually, the inclination finishes right on the road side. It doesn't just give 10 metres, there's 0 level standing. This application is full of faults and incorrect statements. It says the application says there have been no previous planning applications for this site. But anybody who has lived there some time knows that this omits to mention the one in 1992, which was rejected again on the dangerous access grounds, and that went to appeal, and it was rejected again for similar reasons. Some councillor made the point that these roads were made for horses and carts, not for motor vehicles. This application also states that there are no skid marks on the road and no signs of damage to the wall. Now, I don't know if they realise or not, the people who write these things, you don't make skid marks on wet roads or icy roads or wet leaves, and that's where all the accidents happen. I personally hit the wall twice, I'm sad to admit. However, it concludes that there are no highway safety concerns. Well, I've got photographs, if you'd like to see them sometime, of a hole in the wall that the Mercedes made in 2021, I think it was February 21. The hole's about 6 foot wide, the Mercedes landed half and half over the edge going to the sculpture lounge, which is a 40-foot drop. Children going to school in a crocodile, hand in hand, came past half an hour later, so they would have been subject to that incident if they were passing. But again, it says there have been no incidents. I think what they mean is, they say no incidents, but they mean there have been no fatalities or injuries. And I can't account for any of this databases. I could go on and on with little things like that. Could I just say one final thing? That if you could consider the road safety aspects of this application in some detail, it would be appreciated. And if you wanted to arrange a site visit, I'm sure you'd see the repairs to the wall, the fact that there are no skid marks because you don't make them, and possibly ask for the transport assessment to be rewritten before any recommendations are made to Kirklees. How can they make any correct decisions? Correct decisions can't be made based on incorrect data. That's all.
Well, just very briefly on that, with the saying that there's been no repairs to the wall at the bottom, no evidence of repairs to the wall at the bottom. You've only got to go on site to see the evidence of repairs to the wall at the bottom. Now, for them to make an erroneous statement like that is simply not right, and there should be something done about it to actually take that away. Now, I don't know what the procedures are with regard to parish council, Kirklees council, or whatever like that, but if they're basing decisions on transport statements which are erroneous and which contain basically lies, where do we go from there?
Okay. If you would like to say, we've got some business to go through, but if you'd like to stay until we get to the new applications, we can suspend the standing orders and bring those to the top of the list, those two. Okay. Okay, you'll have to sit through somewhere. Okay, next item 18, Public Body Definitions to Meetings Act. As local parish and town council meetings can never be recorded, or the chairman to check if any members of the public wish to record the meeting. It's only being recorded anyway, it goes on to YouTube. But does anyone wish to make the recording?
No.
Okay, thank you. 19, to accept apologies for absence.
We've had one apology from Councillor Fernandez.
You don't say what reason
Oh,
is in the meeting.
apologies. Thank you for keeping me.
Andrew Kerwick said apologies as well. Sorry about that. Only just. We have to receive apologies from the council themselves in advance of the meeting. Unfortunately, it's carving a cow, so I can't get any. Some of them things later, isn't it?
Item 20, to receive members and officers' personal and disposable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda.
I have a certificate of lawfulness at Hepworth.
You know,
Okay.
shortly.
Yeah. Do you have to hand which number it is? So I can remember.
I'll just find it.
Thank you.
90968, I agree.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
number
what it is.
9 on the planning list.
Thank you.
And I have a personal interest in 90969. Jeff, I think you're doing the 11 on yours. No, you're fine. Number 17.
Thank you.
Any others?
I put my cat in the cat room. It's old food. I don't know whether that counts as a
You should declare it, yeah. If you're making financial payments to them, you should declare it.
There you go, there.
Just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. So there you go.
What application number's that?
Just, that's in.
It'll come up, you'll see it when it comes up.
I think that's in.
Item 21, to consider written requests for new DPI dispensations. Okay. 22, to consider whether items on the agenda should be discussed in private session. Do we have anything that we need to discuss in private? No? Okay. Item 23, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. Minutes of the planning committee meeting held on the 17th of April 2023, numbered 232401, 232417.
Move that we accept the
Yeah,
minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Chair, before we move on, just a point of order, what, do we do matters arising?
No.
There's a room for that on the agenda.
No.
So how may those issues be raised? How may those issues be raised?
Through the clerking team for next meeting.
Yeah, I think it's because you need to have items on the agenda so the members of the public can see them, what we're going to be discussing and talking about. So if you do matters arising, sometimes you might bring up something else and the members of the public wouldn't know about it in advance to come and speak if they want to speak about it. So if you let the clerk know, I think it's normally, is it the Tuesday or Wednesday beforehand that the agendas go out? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Item 24 then, to elect a vice chair.
I nominate Councillor
Councillor
Dixon.
Locker.
Councillor Dixon.
Do I have a second?
I nominate Isaac Brown.
A second?
No
for
second?
Councillor Barnett?
Right, looks like it might be Mr. Dixon.
Okay.
It's a vote on it first, right?
I think we have to approve it.
Okay, so can we vote on appointing Councillor Thomas Dixon as vice chair?
Cheers.
Oh no, sorry. Item 25, ward coverage on the committee. Ideally, councillors should review all new planning applications on the planning list. However, sometimes this may not be possible due to time constraints. Councillors should, as a minimum, review all the planning applications in their own parish ward. Where there are no members for a ward on the planning committee, it is beneficial if a designated member reviews applications for that ward. And then we've got a list of who's in which ward. Bit unusual this one in having so many, 47 applications, and you can imagine it's just impossible to go through all 47 orders. I think what we've done in the past, and what I'd like to do, is at least 2 of us review each application. And my thoughts are that if we do our own ward, plus at least 1 more, I think that covers us. In addition to that, I would say where there are sort of more contentious ones, then I think we should all look at those anyway. And they're fairly obvious. They're the ones that get a lot of publicity, a lot of comments from the public, that sort of thing. So what I thought I'd do, and I can do this outside of this meeting, is I'll put together a chart for who does which ward. But in principle, are we all happy to do that?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any preference, or at least does anyone not want to do a particular ward as their second one?
I'd quite like to do it because it butts up to schools and
Cade Edge as long as Thomas don't mind.
Yeah, it makes sense to me to do Scoulton Edge as well, because
Yeah.
it's neighbouring. If it could help to do like neighbouring committees and
Yeah.
Because it helps then, you know, when you,
Yeah.
because sometimes I might know the applicant, so then it's a conflict of interest in it, and
Yeah.
Thomas will be the same, so at
Yeah.
least, yeah.
I think it's good as well because then you've got, if like, for instance, Joe's not available to attend the meeting, you've got at least one councillor who's reviewed the plans, so I think it's good that we've got quite a few numbers on the committee. In the past we only had a few of us, so we're a bit limited, but now we can hopefully spread the work out more evenly.
It's a happy situation, isn't it?
I'm happy to do all three holiday ones. I've been doing all three for the last 4 years.
Are you sure?
Well volunteered.
The thing is as well though, if you like help each other out a bit, if someone's on holiday then you can just message them, carry, because they're like, all the things are the same in it, you can't really bend planning rules, can you?
Okay, Councillor Blackett.
I'm happy to do Bordeaux as well as First Central.
As I say, I'll put something together and sort of circulate it around and, you know, we can talk about it if there is issues. Okay. So I think that covers that item, doesn't it? We should now be moving on to the completed Kirklees planning applications list, but I'd like to suspend standing orders if I can at this point, to allow Councillor Greaves. So okay, are we okay to suspend standing orders?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. So I'm here tonight as Kirklees councillor for Home Valley North Ward, the overlap being Holme and Brockles. Within the planning committee's remit is the neighbourhood plan. The neighbourhood plan, and within that there are a variety of policies, one being in respect of road safety arrangements. So there's some budget provision for road safety works, and that's what I've come to speak on tonight. So over the last few months, a few things have popped up, and we've had some discussions with the previous chair of the committee, and I just wanted to bring the committee up to date with some of the issues in my ward, I guess there's a much broader discussion to be had in terms of the issues in the other parts of the valley as well. But in essence, there was a school-based scheme that we were looking to get some funding for. Our funding was pulled, and that was for cones that schools will put outside the front, and they're in the shape of children. They've been used in a variety of locations, and they have far more impact and get much more attention than just regular road cones. There is a supplier, but that supplier is quite expensive, and we'll be in touch with some local firms to see whether or not they could do something cheaper. The thinking behind it would be to buy some of these to share and rotate around schools as and when they do a road safety programme. But for my part, the discussion I've had is with the Jagger Lane site at Holme Junior and Infants, and they're very keen to work on the road safety aspects. One of the other issues that we've talked about is the 20-mile-an-hour limit. So I was speaking with the head of highways this afternoon. The West Yorkshire funding for that is still, shall I say, up for debate. There are 38 locations where that are on the priority list, if you like, but that leaves an awful lot of locations that aren't. The main focus upon those is around schools. So we are looking at putting a 20 zone into the centre of Brockles to straddle the school, and realistically it may cover a fair bit of the village, because perversely it's often cheaper to do a bigger area because you have fewer gateways, and it's the gateways that you have to spend a lot of money on the signage. The legal costs are always immense, and the legal costs are the same whether it's 50 metres of tarmac or 500 metres or 5 kilometres, it's the same price. So for the 20-mile-an-hour zone in Brockles, there's various ways of doing it. Some involve traffic calming, some don't. It depends upon the speed measures and the layout of the road. So we have some indications for what those costs are likely to be. For the 20 mile an hour zone in itself, that's likely to be around £20,000. If you start adding traffic calming measures in, that could easily push the cost up to 40 plus. We've also been looking at issues on Magdale. So Magdale, in a similar vein, it is a 20 zone already. It's identified as a quiet lane. It's one of the few quiet lanes that was designated. That legislation was still live. It's not particularly effective. It's not been particularly popular, and the reasons has been just simply making a designation doesn't alter behaviour and issues, and more houses, more people, more cars. That problem's building up, and with the big development on Netherton Moor, it's just likely to get worse. What we've got on Magdale is 3 flows of traffic all meeting at one very tight point. So we've been working with Highways to try and figure out, well, is there something that we can do with that? So again, we have an update today. There's a scheme in 2 parts. One of those is to just introduce a traffic regulation order with a bit of curb build out. That's likely to cost in the region of 20,000. To put a gateway and turn around in on Netherton Moor, again, would probably double the price of that. There's also been discussions about deployment of the SIDs. So the SIDs are the speed indicator devices. So I'm just trying to think where we are currently. I think we've got one on Bradshaw Road in Brockholes. But there's a few of them out there. So Home Valley North has 3. So 1.5 are on rotation in Homley and Brockholes. I think Home Valley South has 2, but they may have bought a third one, I'm not entirely sure. So one of the things that we were looking at was whether the parish council should buy its own, and if so, then how that would be integrated. So there's the cost of buying the units, there's the cost of servicing the units, there's the cost of moving the units and erecting them, there's the cost of taking down the data, there's also the cost of setting up a site so it's got the power supply, and not all lamp columns can do that. So if you pick the wrong lamp column, the cost for using that location can be astronomical because they'll have to replace the lamp column to do it. So my suggestion would be, rather than to buy a unit and to look at introducing extra areas, because the ward councillors have struggled with funding the moves, I think it's true for Home Valley South, but you have to double check. I think we're on 3-month rotations. Ideally, the manufacturers and road safety people who push these systems would say that actually they have an impact and then that tails off. So it's better to move them. So rather than to be in location for 3 months, it's actually better to be there for 6 to 8 weeks. So rather than buy a new unit, one of the things that would really help is if the parish council will contribute to the cost of moving them more frequently. There's been some cost provided, I think, to the council, but even simply just the cost of moving a unit, when you start thinking about 3 or 4 units and making 5 or 6 moves over the course of the year, that comes to a considerable sum. But it's a lot cheaper, and it's a lot easier to do that than it would be for the council to buy its own units and then ask Kirklees to manage them for them. But obviously that's a decision for the committee to make. There's always lots of issues with highways, and I think if there was £1 million in my boot, that still probably won't be enough to address the issues that we've got. What we do end up having to do is to focus on where there's real safety concerns, or where we can make the argument for funding or resources. So one of the big constraints within the council, including Kirklees, is getting some money, but the other constraint is getting officer time. So effectively these days, unless you've got, whether you've got the money or not, unless you've got a good case, you're not going to be able to secure highways engineers' time to even look at it. But there's no point asking for officer time if you've got no idea how you're going to fund it. So you can get caught up in a bit of a loop. For the most part, highways budget has shrunk over the years considerably, so they tend to focus on priority areas, and those areas, I alluded to it earlier on in the meeting, will be where there's recorded incidents, which is vastly different to actual incidents. recorded incidents tend to be where there's been a blue light response. So the focus is always upon killed and seriously injured, which is consistent with government highways policy and interventions. Some of the other work that's going on is there's been the Kirkland speed review. They've not yet published that, but they keep saying they are going to publish it. But the briefings on that are that there's very, very few roads where they're looking to make any changes, that the Kirkland's policy approach is in line with national legislation and national guidance. There are some surprises with that, but it does reflect what national legislation is. Kirkland doesn't make the law, it has to follow the law. But if there's any questions for now, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Have we any questions?
Chair, one question through you, if I may. You mentioned priority to school areas. I wondered if any consideration had been given to the situation at Hinchcliffe Middle School on Dot Lane, where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, and yet it's a rural school route. There are no footpaths, there's parking on both sides of the road, and it really is quite dangerous at times. A lot of traffic goes up there to the Holmford Vineyard. People drive very quickly. And I don't know whether there have been any recorded incidents, but it's an extremely dangerous road, and it well merits a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, if I could just come in there, we did have a presentation from Kirklees on their speed review. Now, what they've said is they're going to prioritise schools across Kirklees. Now, we haven't got any detail of that, but these will be prioritised for 20-mile-an-hour zone.
So that should include.
It should include all schools, yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry,
No, there's 38 schools on the priority list. Kirklees are wanting to look at all the schools, but you're back to funding. So at this moment in time, we're trying to secure the funding for the first stage, which will be those 38. All I can tell you is Brockles isn't on the 38, and I don't know what the other 38 are.
Chair, can I ask a question? So what you're asking is if we can fund our own PID to go around our own schools. So are you asking for funding for us to fund it to do our own parish schools, or just?
No, just updating us.
Or you just
well,
because I thought you said you wanted funding.
Yeah.
I think, Jerry, again, if I can come in, there are sort of a couple of items on the agenda, and my thoughts were we draw it over to next month's agenda anyway.
Right.
One is for the signs that Councillor Reeves talked about outside schools, which, yes, we could indeed fund if that's what we want to do. And the other is in regard to seats. And again, we've already agreed to fund them. I think we're still waiting for some feedback from the ward councillors, I believe. Have we everything there from them?
Nothing more than that.
Councillor Crooks replied, but that's some time
in
ago.
the papers, but I don't think so.
No. So I think possibly by next week we'll have a bit more information on that.
If I may, all highways works cost a fortune. The money that the parish has allocated to it is significant within the parish's resources, but we're very quickly run out addressing the local highways issues. So there are some of those schemes, if you like, that are universal. So the SIDS is one, the schools is one, and I think they'll be a good fit for the council. But equally, there is some funding available, and Magdale is one of those areas where the parish council expressed an interest in terms of what the work was. So that's why I've updated on that one. The truth be told is with millions still wouldn't be enough. But anything that we can get to help move some of these schemes forward is to the good.
Okay.
Quick question, promise. Are we allowed to ask businesses to help us raise for these things out of curiosity? Or is that a conflict of interest? Because I know some friends who do plastics and stuff, so bollards that are made of plastics, based in units all around the Valley. I just thought it'd be a good advertisement for their businesses. It's tax deductible because it's classed as charity. Are we allowed to approach people or not?
It's a good question. I'm We might have to
I'm
take
looking,
advice.
I'm looking at Richard and thinking,
No, I think we'll have to take advice, we'll have to go to the Gatmouth,
I think if the schools were to do this personally in conjunction with these, through council allows, like maybe away from the parish council, but there's nothing stopping the schools from doing something like that with the companies and maybe getting sponsorship. But through the parish council, I think I don't know, it might be a bit dodgy. I'm not sure.
So I can do it myself in conjunction with the schools, but not as a parish councillor.
at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that would be the
You get some clarity.
Yeah,
Okay, shall we move on? Thank you very much.
cheers.
Item 26, completed Craiglees planning applications list. Can we note the updated list, reviews of the committee, and the revised comment by the Parish Council on a specific application?
We don't both.
No, so
Okay. Item 27, new planning applications. These two. So if we'd like to take, bring forward 91212. Can I suspend standing orders again, please, to allow us to consider these?
so it's 38 and 45.
sorry, that's it.
Right, which number on the list are we doing? 38 and 45 you do. I can't see.
38.
38 and 45. 38 and 40, thank you.
Thirty-seven.
44.
37.
44.
Yeah,
It's a bit
37,
sensible.
44 is,
Yeah,
so if we do
37.
37 first. So the pickled pheasant.
I would propose that we oppose this, this application. I mean, we've heard many reasons, and I think there are additional reasons as well. I just feel it's inappropriate. I mean, in general, we like to support the expansion of local businesses, but I think for the reasons that have been outlined to us in some detail, I feel this is not an appropriate development in that at that place. And the highways issues are very salient with
Desperately trying to find mine now. There we go. Councillor James?
Yes, again, I think the points against this have been made very clearly, and I particularly think the hot food kiosk is a kind of quite a bizarre add-on to this application. The other thing that concerned me reading through it was that there was a lot of very detailed technical stuff about flooding, and it seems to me that this is a floodplain, and it's something that ought to be taken seriously. It's beyond my technical expertise to evaluate that, but it's clearly an issue where the river home runs along the bottom and has done in the past.
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of technicalities around it, whether these are insurmountable or not, I don't know. I was a bit unclear about the urban green space as well. I can't quite make out whether this falls into that or not.
Chair, is there anybody who wants to speak in favour of this? Because we can very quickly say we're opposed to it.
Well, okay.
You propose to be rejected?
I'm proposing that we oppose it.
Based on highways grounds, which are the grounds for grounds?
highways.
Flood risk.
And I think the kiosk is fine. Yeah.
Lots of green space in the community.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is
44.
44 from the Valley.
You've got a hand up, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, I just would like to advise that you probably want to speak to your Kirkland council as to take it to committee so that you can put your comments forward at committee. Because although we've recommended refusal, you will have to reiterate, and getting it to committee would be the best way to do that. So if you're really objecting, then you could ask a local councillor on planning.
You can actually speak at the council meeting.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. I thought you used to have to get it to, you have to ask it to go to committee first though. You do have to ask
Assuming
it.
it goes to committee.
It goes
No,
to the
you-
committee on its own.
No, you have to ask it to go to the actual committee, don't you, Tom?
No, you don't have to do it. Sometimes the officers that Kirklees made, if it's a very contentious one, they'll put it to committee themselves.
Right.
Or if, I think you need 2 councillors to refer it to committee. So if you were to speak to one of your ward councillors about this, only even 2 of them, 3 of them, there's 3 of them, if you were to approach them, and 2 of them were to suggest it went to committee, it would do. But you may not need to do it. If the officer decides to refuse it, based on the grounds which we have, then it may get refused anyway without going to committee. So sometimes it might be worth speaking to ward councillors, and they might speak to the officers and give you a bit of an idea where it's going.
So you mentioned Northern Stroke, who else would you recommend?
Paul Davies, Oliver.
With respect, we have told Paul Davies, it says he can't comment on anything because he's on the planning committee, so he doesn't talk to us about it.
Okay.
He has the get out of jail card.
One of the things
Councillor
is,
Cook and Councillor
First.
the council's about to speak to you and hear your thoughts on things, but they couldn't tell you what they think about it if they're on the planning committee. It's like those guys tonight. If you were to speak to me before the meeting, if I was to tell you my thoughts on it and told you I didn't like it, then I'd be going into the meeting with prejudicial interest. I've already made my mind up. So that's a message to all the councillors here. We can't already make your mind up before you go to a meeting or tell people things about this and that because. So yes, that's probably what Councillor Davies has been. You just got to be careful.
I'm sure.
Okay, number 44 then. This is proposed development and erection of 16 dwellings with access from Lane Avenue. This is one again for Councillor James.
Yes, Chair. I would echo all the comments that have been already made and add some of my own, if I may. I think the transport survey is particularly disingenuous. There is indeed evidence of accidents to the damage to the wall, which is perfectly clear. I think it also makes a comment about there being a salt and gritting bin at the bottom of the road, which is it's an irrelevant as far as the gradients on Bankside and Lakeside Road are, and those roads are never gritted in the winter. So this is a serious issue. We're talking about 16 homes, 45 additional parking spaces. The transport survey comments on an 89% increase in traffic using Smithy Lane, which is a very narrow lane, no footpaths, and parked cars either side from residents. So I think there are a lot of issues there that are a cause for concern. I think the other thing that I would want to say about this, Chair, if I may, is that this is a small housing development of 16 3 and 4+ bedroom houses. This is not at all consistent with the neighbourhood development plan. It's entirely inconsistent with it, in fact. New developments of 10 or more houses should include a mixture of 1, 2 or 3 bedroom properties, and they should include housing designed to meet the needs of older people, properties for first-time buyers, and should provide a suitable portion of affordable housing. This proposal meets none of those criteria.
I think if I could, sorry, Councillor Barker.
I suspect that this might be one of those planning applications where in the end it will be built. I mean, the land is allocated for housing, but what we're doing is to try and make it as good as it possibly can. It's we have others that are on the go that are in exactly that situation. But I would echo what Councillor James has said, because the mix of housing is in conflict with what's prescribed in the supplementary planning document on affordable housing. It's completely way out of scale with what's in there. And I noticed that highways, the highway structures are wanting more information. They obviously feel it's they're not producing enough information. So I'm suggesting that for all the reasons that you stated and that Councillor James has stated, that we propose this one.
Could I add on the climate change measures as well?
Yes.
I thought that was quite cool.
Yes.
The talk about PV that's subject to review, there's no real commitment. And these aren't cheap houses, these are 3 or 4, 5-bedroom houses.
I know attempted to do any other form of heating other than gas heating, so yes, you've got other expensive houses,
Yeah.
only a few more £1,000 in cost.
I think we're moving towards a close.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay.
Since the remaining 45 very well
Thank you. I think reasons not to have a highways issue. I'm like, I've never seen a planning application where it says no skid marks, so it's fine. It's very strange. Why would you mention the wall? The wall is fine, but they get run into. And it's like, well, why are you mentioning this? It clearly means that something's happening there.
Yeah.
It's strange, so it's strange.
I just got one final question on that. The other council mentioned about because there's not been any blue light response. Don't they ever take into account the fact that there have been incidents and there hasn't yet been a fatality or a serious accident? They just don't care until it happens, so it's the accident waiting to happen, that when it does happen, then we take it into consideration.
We had a similar conversation with Head Kirklees Highways about Hayden's slowing down scheme as part of the 106 money, and they're not interested unless it's actually been completed.
Okay, can we move on, please?
Sorry about
It's just
that.
time.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention.
So you can go back to number 1 then. Which is Rochester and Blackburn. Side extension, single story rear extension. Any comments to make?
I thought this was probably okay. I know small feelings I had, just about the size of the extension, I wasn't able to calculate that, whether it was too much, but I would say we would suggest there's no objection, but just to check the size of the extension relating to the existing building.
Yes, as a rather inexperienced councillor on this committee, my observation on first reading was that the climate change statement was rather vague and woolly, particularly when I compared it with the one I got for the other Neverthon application. So I thought maybe a bit more work needed doing on that.
My comment is just that you probably see a lot more extensions due to the fact that the house prices are so high and it prices people out, doesn't it? So most people are like expanding because they've got like no financial other options. So
We tend to find most applications are enlargements, extensions, what sort of.
or the replacement of conservatory with something else. That's been very clear. The man who sold them 20 years ago is going out selling something better.
Can we move on
We're
to
supporting, yes?
Yes,
Support. O2. This is Councillor Colleen.
Yeah, unremarkable support.
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 O3. Councillor Blacker. Erection of single story side
again, I
extensions.
thought this was uncontentious, so support this,
Yeah.
Okay, support. O4. Councillor Blacker. This is just.
This is discharge of conditions, so again, for new houses, if there's a discharge of conditions, the practice is to make a standard reply, deferring to the council officers, so that's suggested.
Yeah.
Okay, all okay with that?
This is.
Or fines then. That's Councillor Ransby and myself.
I have no objection to this, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Did I make a note on that one? Yes, and I'm the same. Unremarkable.
Yeah.
Okay, approved.
Approved. Okay.
Number
Number
6 is withdrawn.
Is it? Oh, that's all. That's good. Making good progress. Or 7. Change of use of agricultural building and land equestrian. Councillor Miles and Councillor Blacker.
I don't really have any objections, it's a rural area, it's out of the way, it doesn't impact on anyone. Well, I've been and had a look at all my applications this weekend, it's in its own little unit, it doesn't impact on anyone, I've walked the footpath, it's just, you know, standard.
I would agree with that. I think it's, yeah, it's
Just, it is all enclosed, she's kept it away from everybody, it's exceptionally tidy, she's not.
Okay.
yeah, it is green belt, but I think it's not an exception.
Number 8, is it?
Yes.
This one is Councillor Fenwick, who's not here. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, have a look at this one. It's converting the garage into a room and putting a sliding coin on the roof. Approve, it's fine.
9.
Am I allowed to comment or not?
No.
When we've got 47 to do, we try to keep the comments.
It's nice, so I'm just wanting to
I
like
was going to say,
explain.
nice try. So, actually, my comment on this was going to be no comment, because we've got a member of the council who is actually on this committee, and I don't think it'd be right for us to give a comment about it, because we've got members who've got an interest.
I don't know. It's a perfectly understand. So I didn't think it would stop us commenting.
No.
No, I think we can comment.
I'm not object, I don't object.
The
I have to
person
say-
with the interest can't.
No, clearly not. No. I mean, I'd have to say it seems to be just a technicality.
I was going to say that. I think we would support it. It's just, yeah, just something that's.
Yeah.
We write something that should.
She got to send a picture of septic tank in.
Are we?
You're not allowed to speak.
Alright.
Are we having to support?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 10 then. Another one for yourself, Mary. Redundant garages to ancillary living within the conservation area. This is Cooper Lane, isn't it?
Yes, it's creating one bedroom accommodation, which I guess we always welcome. My conclusion, just support really, that's nothing
Okay.
exceptional really.
Can I just say, I think I'm right in saying that the officers said that it was not to be a holiday let. It was to remain part
Yes,
of the main
yes.
accommodation. That's
Yes.
something I would support as well,
Yes, we do say
because
that,
there's an excess of that.
So we could have that as a rider company, so we support,
Yeah.
you know, the
The
subject to
officers
the,
rather.
the accommodation being used only by the farm.
Okay. Support?
Yeah.
Support. Number 11. Connection of single story extension, 82 Woodhead Road. Councillor James.
Yes, Chair, it's I think single-storey extension of the rear of the building, appropriate building materials, minimal impact, appropriate climate change mitigation measures. I support it.
I've just put flat roof, but I haven't. As we will find out.
Okay.
Support? Number 12.
I said that I'd support it. Basically, I know we're a bit suspicious sometimes when businesses ask for extra hours, but it's only an hour and a half for a business that is serving local builders well. so I would support it.
Is this Screwfix?
All right, yes.
What time is it? What time is it open? Because I think some of the local residents weren't very happy about it originally, but what time is it open until? Is it?
6:30, I think.
Oh, is it all?
Yeah, it's not late.
I thought it might be 8 o'clock or something like that. Because I think one of them, the one in Lockwood opens till 8 o'clock, but 6:30 is not too much of a problem, is it?
They open early, they open about 7.
Yeah.
But obviously for builders to get there
Yeah.
and then get to work.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Okay?
Yeah.
Support? Number 13. Councillor Miles, Councillor Blacker. Demolition of outbuildings and erection of detached dwelling. Dunford Road, Haymarket.
I've actually been to site and taken some pictures, if anyone wants to see them, Councillor Blacker. Basically, it's just some old derelict buildings and some, and it's a one-bedroomed, like, dwelling. The application says it's for his son, similar to, I think, the other application that we've just put like a, I'd put like a no Airbnb thing on it again, maybe. Councillor Blackburn.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, and you know, sort of that's comment positively on the air source heat pump and the solar array. I think we should comment positively on that. So
Yes.
support.
I think it's quite nice how they've even accommodated off-street parking, so it's not going to be like detrimental, and it'd fit quite well in what they've done, because it fits into the social housing that they've put a bit further up.
Number 14. Only one.
I was just want to say about, I think this is the one with the cattery, isn't it? So I have an interest. We get discounts by, it's not cheap for them, is it?
I'm open to suggesting on this one because clearly they're struggling to make a living and the plans look okay. It's in the middle, it's not going to offend anybody, but the loss of agricultural activity as well as an agricultural building is an issue. I don't know whether other people think it's an issue.
Any other views?
What plan was it?
It's going to self-service from being stables, self-storage from stables. They're keeping part of the farm going, they're keeping the cattle going.
It might just be, well, it sounds like diversification, like they're just trying to change with the times.
Yeah.
If they're not using the stables, it's better the building's used for something else and keep the rest of the farm going. So
Yeah, that's vaguely what I thought, but I
Yeah.
thought I should alert people to it.
And I guess it's still business.
Can I just
Still
also
industry.
comment though, once it becomes commercial, it would be a commercial to domestic conversion within a certain length of time, so just take that into
Well, it might,
consideration.
you can't be certain.
we can't comment on that though. Because
We can't comment on what might happen in the future, however much we
Yeah.
suspect it.
Yeah.
Actually, the plans, sorry to elaborate on that, looking at the plans, it would be an odd place, it's right in the middle of all the farm buildings.
Right, well, fair enough then.
It's not very appealing to have as B&B.
No.
Well, I felt that the fact that it is surrounded, I hadn't twigged the agricultural issue, but the fact it's surrounded by the other buildings, it's going to be unnoticeable, isn't it?
Okay, so are we having to support?
Yeah.
15 then.
Do you want
Another one for
to- Yeah, it's, I support unremarkable.
Yeah.
Are we on 17 now?
16.
Beg your pardon. Good on yours.
Is it me again?
Yes. Erection of single storey real extension on the road.
I'd support, nothing special.
Unremarkable.
Yeah.
Support. 17. This this was the one I declared an interest in, so.
Abby, what's your interest?
I should take some of the vice chairman then, you can't speak.
Yes.
So the ward councillor is Councillor James. Do you wish to comment on this one?
Yes, I do, please, Chair.
Yeah.
To my mind, it was far from being a straightforward proposal. It's an extensive development in terms of the site. It talks about renovation and extension to an existing farmhouse, but that seemed to be something of an understatement. The footprint of this development is huge compared with the small grouping of properties there. It appears to be almost the building of a new house. This is a small group of just 6 houses in an isolated rural location. And it's undoubtedly the case that the development will have an impact on other residents. I don't know whether there have been any objections, I didn't see any. But the other concern I had was that this proposed development appears to straddle a public right of way. The application indicates that it won't be affected, but it's difficult to see how the scale of the proposed development would not interfere with the public use of the path, particularly during any building that is taking place. Appropriate building materials appear to be being used, but it's questionable, to my mind anyway, whether the architecture of the proposed development, as shown on the plans, actually fits into the character of the local properties. The other thing that slightly worried me about it was that some fairly minimal climate mitigation measures are proposed, but they're not extensive, and the caveat that they will be used where possible was almost there in every single case, which tells its own story. So I had serious reservations. I'm not clear that it's consistent with the neighbourhood development plan, and again, I think it's one of those situations where a site visit would actually be very informative.
Okay, Councillor Black, would you wish to comment?
Right, I thought this was a really confusing application because it talked about amendment to previous approval, which was in 2004, which has obviously long since lapsed. Yeah. And actually, I'm looking at the plans, I thought it was just a fairly modest extension, and the existing ownership goes across the public rights of way. I agree the climate, it was very skimpy, the climate change state was very skimpy. I just feel perhaps in this case, because it's very muddly, this might be one of the cases where we just say we don't make a decision, no decision.
We can choose to refuse it if I get a proposal for that.
Chair, I would like to suggest that rather than just not taking a decision, that we record reservations about the nature of the application, if that can be done.
Okay, so no comment. Well, no decision, no comments. We can do if you wish. I think Councillor James did mention 5 reasons which I would say you could refuse an application on. Yeah. You mentioned over-intensification, not in keeping, issues with the right of way, climate change, and the local plan. It's got 5. I'm really pleased with that. So these are all grounds which we could use, which if it was in my ward, I would think I'd be tempted to refuse it. So.
I just want to ask, if I can, to the chair, did anybody else look at this application?
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you, I was not completely clear what was going on with it.
I would be happy, Chair, to propose that we don't support this application.
So, okay, that's a proposal. Anyone else wish to second that? Yes. Second that. So, should we have a vote that we refuse the application on the 5 grounds which you mentioned? Sorry, Mary. Sorry.
I just wondered if there was a midway of no comment.
That's Mary's proposal. Any second for no comment? Okay, right. Well, I'll do the vote for the refusal first. So the refusal vote, show your hands, please. So that's 3. And a vote for no comment. Alright, okay. So I think we should go for no comment.
With reservations.
But we should mention the reservations that we have.
With statements about the poor quality of the application.
The plans, yeah. We should mention that in there.
And the very skimpy, use that word, climate mitigation statement.
In particular, Chair, I think also the interference with the public right of way is an important issue.
Yeah, okay, good. I think we can do something there. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Number 18 then.
This is an odd one. I support it because this group does an enormous amount of good. They bought Macdale Fields to stop developers getting it. It was the entrance to a natural place where you could put houses, and it was the only way you could get in, so they bought it. They've kept it green, they've got rid of all kinds of weeds. I mean, they are doing all sorts. They're moving on to they're going to renovate the old thing in the cemetery, the old building that they're using as a store at the moment. They won't have a store. When they say they will paint it artistically and plant things around it, I believe that they will, because they're a very green group. But it is a big ugly thing. But it's standing on hard standing that's already there where there was an old hen house. Ages and ages ago. So I support it, although it looks odd.
What group is it?
Friends of Magdalen. No, well, it's the Friends of Honley, I'm sorry. Friends of Honley, and then it's the part of the Friends of Honley that's doing the Magdale Fields work.
I support it.
I mean, I know it's within a conservation area, and we usually refer it to officers, but I'd quite like it to go in with our support, although officers will finally decide.
Is this for a permanent fixture, not a temporary?
Well, it's a storage container to keep all their equipment in.
They don't really need
So
one.
it could be removed then if at a later date you want to put something nicer or do something different. It's not there. It's not there permanently, is it?
Sometimes they apply for like 5 years or something.
Well, they haven't put a time limit on it, and if something happened and they stopped being there, it could be removed, but I don't suppose they'll want it removed while they still do all this work.
You could put a thing on to say if it's not used within 6 months, you know, if it's empty and not used, or the disband within 6 months and no one pulled it, then you could remove it, and then that will take away your dodgy bit, wouldn't you?
I mean, we can support subject to officers anyway, can't we?
Yeah.
Conservation officer. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Councillor Fernandez isn't here, so yourself.
Yeah, I would have a look at this one. It's a large property just on the corner, coming from Spring Lane, from the road from our new mill. So they converted it from one dwelling to 2 smaller ones. I think it's okay. I don't have any reason to reject it. It's fine.
I looked at it too, and I don't think nothing.
7 bedrooms, 4
Yeah.
and 3.
Support then?
Yeah.
20. Erection of single-storey front extension within a conservation area. Councillors down at Rostron and Blackheart.
You go first, you're an expert.
I mean, I think the issue, I don't know again with newness to this, but the fact it's in a conservation area is going to cause reservations, isn't it? But when you actually look at the plans, my view was that there's a very small change in footprint. Other people have done similar things in the row, and there's also the mitigation of changing some of the windows and doors back to something more in keeping with the area. So,
And I have looked at the survey report, and they said, if I remember, they're keeping the stones. Yeah, they're keeping it so they're not changing it, so it doesn't look a funny house.
In keeping.
They're keeping it to reality.
and this is one I referred earlier to the climate change statement, which is much more detailed than the farm application. So we've done that.
Just echo that, with comments.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, again, we can support.
Subject
It could be subject to conservation officer.
Yeah.
21.
This chair, I'll look at this one. It's in Folkestone Ward. It's out of the way. It's for agriculture and it's for business. I'm happy to support it.
Okay, support. 22.
One of mine. I see no reason why this shouldn't be approved, or we shouldn't support it.
All those that you weren't looking.
There was just a comment from Kirklees about the retaining wall. They're quite big on retaining walls at the moment.
Especially on Town End Road as well, a huge one.
But I thought, you know, materials, much support.
Yeah, I mean, again, you made a comment previous about things being unremarkable. In the circumstances of where it is, it's an unremarkable application.
Okay, support.
It's one of our favourites next time.
23.
We have loads of them.
Oh, this is one.
It's an orangery replacing a conservatory.
I put materials on match, unremarkable support.
They invented a new concept which I've not seen before, which is biodiversity. Biodiversity.
24.
Yeah, I would all get this one because it's in Folkestone. So this is it's a big old farm building out of the way, and some of the family are looking to take on the running of a farm, so they're putting the move to the main house, and it looks like the farmer's going to move into a converted. This is going to be a converted garage into a small building for him to live in. It's out of the way. It's not going to impact anybody. I think it's okay.
Okay, support. 25. Councillor Ransby.
This was down at Brockholt, as Waldo, but there's actually Brockholts.
There's some funny vowels.
It's sort of, I mean, it's in the approach to Brockholt from New Mill.
Yeah.
It's a creation of another off-road parking.
Yeah, I thought this was quite an interesting one. Probably most people that have seen it have gone past coming out of Brockholt going towards New Mill, where people have made a off-road parking. But unfortunately, some of them block the pavement in doing so. And the house next door to this one very much does that.
Yeah.
And they create another hazard, a worse hazard than the one they're solving. Now in this case, well, first thing to say is it's retrospective, so we've already done it. But in this case, they're saying it will be 4.5 metres long. Now, if I put my car in there, it should be fine. If I put my other vehicle in there, it will be on the pavement. I'm not sure whether Kirklees have a sort of design standard for this. I think I'd be wanting to ask them.
I think we should
Because
refer it to
supporting
our
principle of getting the cars off the road, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I think we should ask them for some clarification on that.
The best bit about this application is the fact that the surface is permeable.
Yes. It is a
So
law.
there's no really runoff. But otherwise, as you say, my worry is that it's happening more and more. And they do jut out. And the school kids coming out, they have to walk out into the road.
Yes. Yeah, no point solving one problem and creating a worse one.
Suggestion that you put a comment that if they do approve it, that there is a condition on it. So for example, I have an agricultural shed, but the condition is if I put my horses in it, they'll pull it down. So I don't put my horses in it. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you ask them to put a condition on it, it would actively encourage them to not, encroach onto the pavement.
But we would want to refuse it if it wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
Not just limit them,
Yeah.
but stop them.
But what I'm saying is if they come back and say, we'll make it a bit wider, but if you still ask for that condition to be added, then it protects us from making a bad decision.
I mean, 4.5 metres sounds, it sounds okay, but certainly my children wouldn't.
I think a lot of cars would not go into
I suppose it depends though, because a lot of people have reduced the cars, haven't they, because of not travelling to work, downsized to one car.
But then,
Yes,
if they then sell the house on, if they built it for their Mini, the next person comes along. they have to-
I'm not saying pass it, I'm just saying if you could ask for a condition to be added for encroachment.
Yeah, but I think if a parking space sounds fine in principle and all that kind of stuff, and if it's a right sized car, it's absolutely fine. But then if they're parking a bigger sized car there and it's encroaching on the pavement, that's an issue for highways to deal with, rather than ourselves. I think.
Rather than planning,
It might be something that the highways want to check on it, or something like that, check that the size is okay. It's a bit murky, isn't it? It's a bit, you don't really see stuff like this very often.
Yeah, I think we can support in principle, but
Yeah.
subject to
Highways.
things we've talked about.
It would have been nice to have had the application before it was constructed.
Yes.
Yeah.
My only other comment.
Yeah, I don't know
it
what
doesn't
I
happen
mean.
very often though, every now and then. I think people sometimes are told they should have had planning permission and they didn't, they genuinely didn't realise.
Yeah, they probably just thought the car park was not.
Some people do know, some people don't know. There's no way we can know, we can't comment.
As an ex-planning officer, I
Okay, next one is demolition of rear extension, erection of replacement, rear extension, Councillor Wales, Councillor Blacker.
I thought it was a sensible response to what looks like a pretty awkward house to live in at the moment.
Yeah.
And although the side extension, I mean, normally extensions like that should be set back from the main building, I think they have made a clear justification for the fact that it comes right up to the frontage. So, so you make these changes and sensible, and you get a more usable house. So I would suggest we support it.
I support it, yeah.
Okay, support. 27, another one of mine, I think this. I've just put the materials match. It's a flat roof again, but
Still learn.
again, a remarkable support.
Yep.
28.
The only thing that bothered me about it, well, it's not the only thing, it's an important thing, but I perfectly believe their claim that they don't use the garage for parking, because as far as I can tell, hardly anybody around here with a garage uses it for parking. But removing it reduces the parking by one space. And this is a 4-bedroom house, and it only has one space other than the garage. So I think it's quite a bit, a future owner, I think it's quite a big thing to remove one of only 2 parking spaces from a 4-bedroom house.
Yes, I would say so too.
Although I lived on Bayfield Close, and that's what they did, all of the houses they converted.
Yeah, but there are supposed to be, for a 3-bedroom house, there have to be 2 spaces if you're building new, and this is a fairly new house.
Oh, is it? Alright.
So it's not like an old house where there wasn't any parking anyway, where if you extend inside, you never did have parking. This is I don't know how new, but it's it's one of these new little small estatey things. And as far as I can see from the photograph, there's 1 parking space outside the garage, and there's the garage. And they want to remove the garage, so it's harsh, but
Well, it's important, isn't it, parking clearly?
It is in Holland, it's tight, isn't it?
Also parking, I think that can be planning considerations for refusal.
Yes. Are we moving to oppose it then on those
I
grounds?
think, can they find some way of at least maintaining the current level of parking?
Okay, oppose? 29.
That's what I know.
Two Little Lane, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see a problem with this, I would not oppose it, I would say we approve. Recommend approval.
I thought this was quite a complicated one. There's been lots of neighbourhood representations, isn't there, to the initial application?
I can't see that there's any real grounds for refusal.
I was moving towards leaving it to Kurt Lees this one.
I'll go with you on that. Yeah.
I didn't feel sufficiently sort of confident to move one way or another.
We quite often do on variation of, because often we look at them and think, I can't fathom this.
They had a lot of grief, I think, with the initial application.
Right.
So whether this is trying to find a way around that by variation of condition, I'm not sure.
I mean, look, as I say, I looked at this as a planning officer and thought, you've really got no grounds to refuse it.
Were you a planning officer, Steve?
I was.
Oh, well done. That's interesting.
Welcome to the this committee will be enriched by you.
How many areas would you like to do?
I did 18 years, 14 years with Kirby.
Okay, I'd like to leave this to committee.
Can we put you recommend you? I just help them out the back one bit.
Yes, one of us is a planning one.
You might get a box of biscuits at Christmas if you.
I would have to.
Right, number 30. Another one of mine, this one, isn't it? Alterations to accommodate detached garages to provide additional accommodation within a conservation area. I actually thought that the appearance was actually improved.
Yes.
It's going to be subject to conservation officer approval anyway, but I was thinking support it.
Yeah.
Okay with that? 31.
Have a look at this one. Folkestone Ward. Quite a bit up the hill where I used to live before, so it's somewhere I'm very familiar with. And it's a bit of a funny one, this, because I looked at it and I thought, is this in Greenbelt? And I think just behind it might be in Greenbelt, but I'm not sure if this bit itself is in Greenbelt or if it's the curtilage of the houses next to it. Right next to it, there's two other semi-detached houses which are pretty much the same as what they're going to build next to it here. And there's plenty of space for it and everything like that. There's potential green belt issues with it, I thought. And the other comments I've got here is lack of climate change measures in the plans. It's like what Councillor James mentioned earlier, say we could probably do like solar panels or maybe put air source pumps in, but there's nothing confirmed on there, and there's no solar panels on the applications. I thought generally the plans themselves to what they're trying to build look okay, there's no overlooking, they're kind of out on their own, a bit away from everything, but I do have concerns about the green belt, and I didn't think the climate change measures were very detailed.
I think there were issues with contaminated land as well, isn't there?
Can I just say that, like, they do struggle a lot with flooding in New Mill, you know, with all the development and the land runoff. So if you're going to put like another set of houses there.
No, this is right further up Greenhill Bank Road. It's probably about 2/3 of the way up, I'd say.
Actually quite steep.
Yeah. There's another pair of service next to it. It's where they've done it. It's where it's supposed to be coming down from Scholes. You know, you got a house on your left hand side, and you just get to the corner, and there's a couple more, and then it stops for ages. It's just up there where it is. So it's not going to affect them down in the centre and in the bottom. It shouldn't affect that.
It just does though, doesn't it? Like it.
Yeah.
Remember when it like goes up to your wheels?
Yeah,
it
yeah.
travels it down.
Yeah, and I've seen it coming up like where I used to live. So I do have reservations about this one and the climate change measures. Does anybody else have a look at all of it before?
I had a look and I thought, you know, echo what you're saying really about, I thought the climate change was quite poor.
Yeah.
They mention air source heating, the solar panels, but then there's nothing on the plans, so I don't think it's serious. There's a contaminated land issues, highways. In principle, I think I'm sort of okay with it, but
Yeah.
subject to these sort of things that we've talked about.
Yeah, that's kind of like why I thought I'm not crazy about it, but I don't have enough reasons to really reject it unless it is on Greenbelt. But I didn't really check.
I thought it was an opportunity missed here. Why not reproduce the 1970s type semis? You know, why not do something interesting? Although it's actually quite an interesting action plan. But I was kind of struggling for reasons to oppose it.
But two homes are better than no.
I noticed that Kirklees Highways that were concerned about the sightlines and the drives. So we've got a few negative things, but possibly not enough to oppose it.
It might just be around the corner as well, so there could be highways issues with it. But you did say the two semis part, but the 2 4-bedroom semis are big. With garage underneath as well, so they're not going to be cheap out, low cost out.
Can I just ask a question on the Greenbelt thing side, you know how much I like green technology and all that jazz? Are we allowed to suggest that they, because it's in the local plan, that they do more green innovation, or do we not really have any say?
We do our best to encourage green behaviour.
It's in the neighbourhood plan. So
It's in the neighbourhood plan, and I believe Kirklees as well.
And I mean, so the climate change statement is a new thing. I mean, we have been complaining about the lack of attention to climate mitigation for several years, but now at least there is that form. But as we've seen, it's completed in a very sketchy kind of way. But so that, I mean, that's
It's a step
general
forward.
really, but it is a step forward, and you know there is more concern about it, but it's mighty slow progress.
Except my house is like completely loose, it's like all electric. Do you know, like, so I just wondered, because you would actively go that way, but I just wondered what our, you know, encouragement stretched to.
Unfortunately, most of what we're talking about, the neighbourhood development plan, and indeed Kirklees, I think it's through their
Supplementary plan.
yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's guidance rather than we can't make them do it. And of course, some of the developers say that. They actually say that, well, you can't make me do it, so I'm not going to. But
I mean, the
it's in conditions.
big development in Netherton, which isn't in our area, it's just right next.
Huddersfield, Netherton, yeah.
And it's right next to Honley. And the biggish one in Brockles Honley. Every single one of those houses will have its own individual gas boiler. There's absolutely nothing we can do until 2025 to stop big developers doing it.
There is a national framework, and that's what we're going. And you know, if you challenge them enough, they just appeal.
Shame,
Isn't it?
Anyway, moving on. My thoughts on this were to support in principle the things we've talked about.
Reservations, yeah.
Because I have reservations.
I'm kind of on the fence with it, but like I don't have enough reasons to reject it. But we should mention all the concerns that we have.
Are we okay with that?
I've got climate change measures, concerns with Greenbelt land, contaminated land, for flooding.
Sightlines.
Sightlines.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that, highways?
There are highways issues with the sightlines. You're approaching a bend, I think, if you come down the edge. Where are we? Number 32, I think, aren't we? That's another one, isn't it? Yes, I've put materials match, poor climate statement, bricks, fairly unremarkable and support. Okay.
Yeah.
33 then.
Me.
Yes.
Thank you. I thought, I mean, these were considerable changes. I thought this was a really weak application. It's a variation of condition on that. I would want to just not make a decision, but defer to Kirklees council officers on this one, and there's still enough information to make a decision.
Yeah. Sorry, yes. 34.
I have a look at this one. It's in Folkestone. It's pretty much across the road from where I used to live, a bit further on. There's a garage there at the moment, and they're wanting to build a house in the garden of the other house next to it, and on top of the garage. What colours did I have? I said, okay, no solar panels. It's another one of those ones where I'm not exactly crazy about it, but I don't know what really grounds me to refuse it on.
Is it a big house or just like another smaller one?
It's about
Three
three bedrooms, so it's a medium-sized house, and there's plenty of space for it on the side. So I looked at it. There's trees at the back of it as well, but it's not affecting any trees or anything like that. So I thought it was okay.
I think we should mention the climate.
I mentioned it mentions no solar panels on it,
Yeah.
and I think it would be a good place.
Depends if the trees will overlook the solar panels.
The trees are at the back, I think. So I think.
Because it comes from, if you're in New Mill, it comes from like where your dad used to live. Well, it's where your dad lives, like it comes over like that.
Yeah, no, it would get plenty of sun facing it where it is. Yeah, I know from where I used to live. It would be.
If we haven't got grounds to refuse it, we should.
Yeah,
No.
I think,
But we should mention the lack of climate.
I think the point, especially when it's a new development, I think
Yeah.
there's an opportunity that we should sort of reinforce.
Yeah, like on an extension or a porch, I wouldn't be that bothered
Yeah.
about it. But when it's a new build, I think we should be pushing more for these measures.
Yes, yes. Okay with that then? Support?
Yeah.
That's a vote of reservation.
Again,
Mitigation.
Yeah.
right, are we 35? Two-story side rear single story.
It's unremarkable, except that it's an extra bedroom and no extra parking. Now, it's in a place where it'd be quite hard to create extra parking, and they're not owned, they're sort of semis. It's not as bad as the other one where they're removing parking, but
How many spaces do they have?
one
One.
in the drive. As far as I could see from the photograph, it looked like, I mean, you might squeeze two in if you're clever, but it looked like parking for one.
And this will be a 3-bed.
I think it's becoming a 4. I think it's a 3 becoming a 4, if I remember rightly. I can have a quick look.
So it should, if it was, it should have 3 then, shouldn't it? For parking spaces.
Existing floor plans, 3 bedrooms. I'm almost sure. Proposed floor plans. Yeah, it's going from 3 bedrooms to 4.
Just one space.
With 1 space.
I think that's almost certainly going to generate a problem, isn't it?
And I have to say, the nature of the housing there, with a bit of ingenuity, they could probably create 2, I would have thought. They might actually lose a bit of front garden.
Anyone else, any comments on that one? I think I want to oppose it on that.
So we propose for intensification.
Yeah.
I mean, just say specifically that it's
Yeah.
parking rather than.
Yeah.
We tend to use the phrase intensification as layfolk, meaning too many houses on too small a space.
It's too big.
Too big.
Okay, so are we okay to oppose that one? Thank you. Body closed Broccos. Tom, who's got this one?
Oh, I think I have the one I missed. This one in Brockholes. Does anybody else look at this one?
This is what? Election of single story rear extension and extension to existing.
Not mine, you look at this one.
All I wrote was extensions.
So no reservations, no. Wait, no negatives, have you?
We don't have to make a comment. And
Let's just
I think personally I would say
Yeah.
no comment rather than.
Yeah,
take
no
a
comment.
comment.
Yeah.
We have had them come back and we've been sort of bitten a little bit with these. I think people come back and say, well, why did you support this when it's quite clear there are issues with we don't know, then we don't know, we say that.
Yeah,
Out of
okay.
45, we've missed one, not one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We missed 11 at the last meeting, which is why we've got to this one.
Alright, fair enough. Definitely got one next meeting then.
I don't think we're taking any part in to do it.
37 we've done, 38.
We don't, 38, we don't normally comment on listed building, we leave it to the listed building
Yeah.
experts, but I'd like to support it, because what they're proposing to do is replace their current single glazed wooden sash windows with double glazed wooden sash windows.
It's been withdrawn anyway.
Sorry?
It's been withdrawn.
It's been
Oh,
withdrawn.
was it?
Yes, they heard your comment.
Can I just raise an issue though? Double glazing should not be installed into listed buildings.
It is allowed sometimes now.
No, historic England are wholly against it.
Well, yes, historical England, we have a neighbourhood plan that says be green though, so we,
But you have secondary glazing.
That's where you put that really ugly.
horrible stuff inside, you get dead flies in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, awful. isn't
And it doesn't work, can it?
But the whole profile of a window alters once you put double glazing in. And the intricate, or the whole concept of the design of the window alters.
Well,
Because it transcends and everything else.
I think this is something that we need.
Yeah. I mean, I would have
Mr. Building.
recommended opposing this if it hadn't been withdrawn.
It's a good job it's been withdrawn. Yes.
We might have come to blows.
39 then.
Is it somewhere else next meeting, Pat?
Unremarkable support.
Oh, yes, okay. And 40. This is one of mine. Who done this? Oh no, this was the extension, wasn't it?
Ditto.
Yes. And I put materials match flat roof, but
Yes.
41.
The White Horse in Installs Road. It's had a bit of a rough time, this pub, you know, it just changes owners more than days a week. It's a bit, I'm not really, there's not a lot of housing there, it'd impact if it had illuminated, long illuminated signs, it's a bit drab really, so I suppose it could help them spruce it a little bit.
We usually try to allow buildings to advertise, don't we?
Yeah, it's possible.
Just
And their
think-
businesses are.
I just think it's had such a rough ride on it. What do you think, now?
I had a look at it as well, and I thought it was pretty unexceptional. I thought they were quite discreet and refined, and they noticed it, so let's just.
Yeah.
42. Demolished existing conservatory and a single story extension.
Pretty minor changes, I thought, and I would say just say support. Yeah, support.
Yeah.
Support.
43.
Yeah, I'm going to look at this one. This is for Deer Shaw House. It's one where they were converting a garage into a small dwelling before. It's a erection of an agricultural building. It looks like an agricultural building, and it's out of the way. I think it's fine.
Okay. 44 we've done. 45. Variation on Mr. Building's concept.
Yeah. I was going to suggest referring someone to the listed building officer. Variation of conditions, it's something that they're more specialised in than I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that 45? 46?
46.
That was 46.
About 45%.
46.
Finish.
Right. 46.
Yeah,
Calvert Road, yes.
46, it was very, it was just an installation of one window up. think support. So we're doing the game line, fine.
And 47. Interesting.
Best till last.
Here we go.
This is going to take forever. No, it's not entirely unproblematic. It's a proposed development on a recently sold agricultural property. It was a working farm, but the application seems to suggest it no longer is. It's not clear precisely what is being developed, but it appears to involve the creation of 3 new properties based on conversion of existing agricultural buildings that appear to be sound. So it makes sense to kind of keep them up and running. But I assume they're going to be put up for sale rather than used by the existing owner. Okay. Chair?
Well, that isn't the intention, and I suppose I do know that this is the idea that it's being developed for family, but of course we don't know what happens. It might sound to you.
I actually am a farmer, so I know the farming family, not like to...
Without having an interest.
Without having an interest, I've got an interest. I do know that the youngest son is a farmer. He's got a shed in your ward on Oxford Lane, and he has cows and he has rare breed sheep. And I think they bought it to be together. The middle children live in schools, and they're all going to move up there. So it is but they are going to continue farming.
That makes more sense, that being the
He's
case.
got
My
3
cons-
kids.
Yeah, my concern was that they very much played down the access issue. It's about half a mile upside up a hill.
He's read on the road recently.
It's still pretty narrow and pretty
Oh,
bad,
I
but it's
nearly
snow.
fell off actually.
Yeah. So I was, but if it's a family thing and we're comfortable with that, then that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, no, I won't turn it.
Do you just, but I mean, we're not supposed to take account of who's going to live in the properties. We just have to look at them on planning application terms. And actually, there was an application very recently in November 2022, which was withdrawn. It was pretty much the same to me as the one that's come forward this time. Then it was for short-term let. And the comments were certainly from the Peak District National Park, that is just outside the National Park, were extremely damning really, that under no circumstances would allow development of isolated homes in the countryside and contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework. So and the vehicle access was another issue that a lot was made of in the last application. So I suppose my feeling would be to object really, because it's inappropriate development in the green belt.
I think that the last application was they were intending demolishing a sort of semi-derelict barn and putting new buildings up, and that clearly was outside green belt's policy. You can't do that. I think what they've moved towards now is saying, well, we've got 2 other barns that don't require pulling down. What we're doing is change of use, and so this is a change of use application.
I think the thing
It
about...
gets very, very technical though, if you read the papers.
The thing about Moss Edges, and I've been up not recently, because I've collected some sheep things, is that the farm has always been quite large and by nature and more like a hill farm, very isolated. I think that although, and I get what you're saying about creating dwellings in an isolated area, but realistically, you aren't really going to stop that, because you can convert barns into existing houses, and if he's going to reduce the traffic by keeping his family there, or even if you come in a nice hamlet of houses, it stops it being derelict, falling to bits, and like he is going to have to invest a lot of money to make that work, and in farming sometimes you have to love the project to make it work up and throw money at it, more money than you would get if you commercially sold it later on, because realistically it would have to be a family that would live there, otherwise you'd be on top of each other and it wouldn't give the value of 3 separate dwellings on their own.
I mean, I've sort of mixed feelings about it. If they're not changing the appearance, they're still going to look like barns, but we're making use of them for housing, then despite the fact that it's in green belt, perhaps that's all right. On the other hand, it is in green belt, and instinctively I think, you know, we should be developing green belt.
Chair, although it's in green belt, it's not new build.
No,
Yeah, it's not increasing its footsteps,
No,
is it?
absolutely.
It's tiny, but
The alternative is for them to rot and decay and fall down, which is not, I think, a good thing in terms of the character of the table.
I think the thing that struck me was that the arguments are very technical, and if you read the paper that went along with it, beyond my comprehension, I have to say, and I came to the conclusion, I think it's better left to Kirklees to decide on this. It's a technical decision as to whether they can do it on change of use.
And the guy that's wrote it, Jonathan Halstead, you must have come across him, Mr. Ramsby, before. He used to work at Kirklees very decades ago. He is very good as like a planning consultant.
I mean, could we not recommend that there is an agricultural occupation
I think if we have
specified
It's
within?
a difficult one,
It could only be farm workers.
It's a difficult one, that, because it has to be 80% or one person earning money from that agricultural tie, and that's just not possible anymore in agriculture.
And despite what you said, Councillor Lyles, I don't think there is any agricultural business there at all. The lease the land right now.
Do they lease it off?
Yeah.
Oh.
Would you has it for a sheep?
Oh no, it's come off though.
No, it's back on.
Oh, is it back on? Oh, I thought it come off.
Anyway, that's by the by.
All right. I didn't know that, so there you go.
Yeah.
Can we just move that we?
I feel as though it should be first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is it.
Well done, Chair.
Well, we haven't finished yet.
We've got through that section practically on time. And minutes up to it.
5 minutes and then we can approve the extension if we're not done.
Okay.
Oh.
So where did we go to? 28. Kirklees Council Planning Officer's decisions to note, well noted.
No, it's good.
29. Neighbourhood planning and review of parish council outcomes. My thoughts with this, and I think I said when Councillor Greaves was giving his update, was really to push this along to the next meeting. I don't think we've had any update from Councillor Crook. Unless you guys
There
can
was
tell us
some in
something
the papers
different.
that is that's
We were all in agreement. I mean,
Yes.
I think, yeah.
Charles isn't in agreement and he's entitled to say so. But
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the decision we made was that we would buy in colour,
Yes.
and I think we should stick with that decision, and that it would be managed by highways officers and become part of their rolling programme. So
I think he was asking, Councillor Crook was asking if we would be happy to allow them to do that.
yes,
yeah,
and I think
I think we all felt we wanted to.
to do that. Yes, yeah.
And I think that was decided already, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just this additional bit with the school science thing.
Yeah.
I thought we could consider next time.
Yes.
So,
I think we could defer that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Peak District National Park, item 30. No planning applications. No.
Sorry, just before we do that, are we going to consider the little pavement signs for safety worries?
We were to defer that.
That's the one I wanted to defer to the next time.
Oh,
Thought we could-
sorry.
We could sort of have a think about that before the next meeting. Okay. All right with that?
Yeah.
Item 30 then, Peak District National Park, note the planning applications list.
No, two.
Noted.
No new applications.
Okay.
It's worth pointing out that we do usually get one or two, don't we, for the Peak District National Park, because of course it covers home. And And to note, the list of decision notices issued by Peak District National Park Authority. Item 31. Ongoing highways campaigns. And there are, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. And again, we can go through each of these if we want, but my thoughts were that perhaps with all of these, it would be good to meet again with the ward councillors to progress these. I don't think there's been any real update on any of these in terms of feedback from Kirklees. I've not had anything on Ramsden Road, not had anything on Cartworth or Cheesegate down.
Can I just make a comment on Cartwright Road? I don't know what this is about Graham. Is Graham West the councillor?
Graham West is the
Highways man. Cartwright Road. Cartwright Quarry is still running an excessive amount of wagons up and down that road because it passed my house every day. I was under the impression that he's told everybody that he's selling it. I don't know if you've heard that rumour. Well, actually, the rumour was, and I need to speak to that person, but he'd sold it to, I can't remember his name, and he's a friend of mine. Anyway, to the guy who owns Hagwood Quarry, who lives down here by Steve Barswood. Can't remember, Gary Morley. So I need to speak to Gary Morley to see if he genuinely has sold it to Gary Morley. Otherwise, I think that was his. After he got a lot of grief at planning, he said that he was going to sell it to Gary Morley. I don't know if he has sold it to Gary Morley, but I don't know. But there is still a lot of wagons going up very fast over the tops and destroying the roads.
And Kirklees are well aware of this. And we've asked for action and not really got any response. As it says there, Graham West has yet to respond to any of the 3 letters and follow-up emails. And again, unless we've had anything this last week as well.
Not unless Rich has got anything to report, but I've not had anything.
I can't see the point of sending a forth just yet.
Councillor Jim?
Yes, sorry, Chair, this was an issue that I was going to raise on the matters of Horizon, but it's related to this and the amount of lorries using this. It's not just Cartworth Moor Road, but it's the damage on Whitegate Road,
Yes.
and the verges to that significant.
Yes.
And during the winter months when it's been wet, it has been a swamp. It's
Yes.
been dangerous. So there's been no cleaning up of the mud on the road. It's been brought up from Cartworth Moor Road. So it's not just Cartworth Moor Road itself. It's the surrounding roads that are also
And
being
again,
badly damaged.
they have been made aware of this.
Right, sorry, Chair.
No, I mean, you would know this is historically represented.
I'm going to give you a nudge on time.
Okay, yes, we need to suspend some in order for you to extend,
And we just need to approve an extension.
to approve an extension.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that? So, again, I think with all of these, I would suggest that we try and arrange another meeting with our road councillors, which we found last time. Allegedly, they have a better communication link with Kirklees officers than we do, and so we get, in theory, a better, quicker answer than ever we will get. So, if we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to make the point, as you've made quite regularly, about if this was a private company, there's no way that the money, a senior person would not respond to multiple letters and emails. It's ludicrous. How do we allow it to go on? How do they allow it to go on? It's ridiculous.
Completely agree. They said that it's cost over £1 million to put the road out, and they've asked him for the funding, and he's not even responding.
There's countless issues like this though, where we ask their officers response and we don't get anything. As I say, I think probably going through the Berkeley
Yeah.
councillors will probably give us more progress than us just sending emails.
Well, sending more emails after the ones we've already sent.
Councillor Brackett.
Fully agree with have a meeting with Berkeley's Ward Council, but we need to decide whether we're talking about just Home Valley South councillors or the Home Valley North
I
councillors
think
as
it's
well.
right, everyone doesn't it, because it's a public right of way, a bridle path.
These are Home Valley South issues,
These are
aren't
all
they?
south
These
issues.
are-
I think Home Valley South councillors we should invite to the
We
meeting.
just need to be clear that that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, all of the live issues are Home Valley South.
Yes.
But the thing about, like, especially, Cartworth Road, Ramsden Road, these are all bridleways, footpaths, byways that everybody in the valley benefits from.
Yes.
So I think that everybody should be involved, because a lot of people do ride up there on bridle paths. It's not safe to even ride an horse down there, push a pram. You know, if you're encouraging people to explore the valley on foot, then it's just not going to work, is it?
No, I do agree with you, but, you know,
And the
they
more
are,
officers,
they
the
are
more
in the
we-
Home Valley South area, aren't they? I think if we start trying to take it outside of that and involve.
Well, we could invite the Home Valley North people and they'll come if they're interested and they
We
want
can.
to send
Yes,
them.
once we've got a date, yes, why not?
Okay, can I suggest that we do that then?
Yeah.
And that we put on that agenda the Hayden Road intersection, which we should get some feedback on. Burnley, Ramsden Road, Cartworth Moor Road, Cheesegate now, and then the general one about the unmade roads, green lanes and byways.
And that one is
Yeah.
the Home Valley.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can we also put in there the meeting that we wish some form of escalation about the lack of response, because, like, it's a bit rude, isn't it?
Get used to it.
I'm not feeling good with it.
Is it worth your sending a rude letter saying, I've sent 3?
Well, it's whether we go up a level, isn't
I
it?
think we should, if you've asked 3 emails and we've not
I
responded.
mean, you know,
If they're
to
not
say
some sort of community-
the committee asked me to pass on their bitter disappointment that you're not responsible.
I'll send it, yeah, you just forward it on.
He's better at them than I am, he does a brilliant one.
It
There
gets
is
us
something
nowhere,
a bit
doesn't it?
firmer than
Gets us
before.
nowhere.
But we tried that, haven't we?
Oh, have we sent a firm one?
We've sent.
Oh, we did
tried
send the firm one,
We
yeah.
tried escalating.
Can we not just send it to Jackie Gedgewood?
We could, yeah.
We could.
She's
Yeah,
retired.
yeah, I think the time has come to write to her.
Okay, I would suggest we do that with the chief executive.
Yeah.
I have done that with the Ramsden Road and limited success. Okay, can we, are we okay then, can we move on with that? So item 33, footpaths and public rights of way. To note, myself was elected to the Public Rights of Way Forum. The next meeting is Monday the 19th of June, which I can't make. But Councillor Green is going in my place again. So, consider any further action at this time. I don't think there's anything associated with that. To note, the Assistant Clerk posted to Facebook regarding the consultation on Washpit Mills investigation of an application to modify the definitive map of statement and create a byway open to all traffic.
Noted.
I don't know whether everyone's sort of aware of this, that traditionally there's been a path through there.
We used to run a farm that did wash pit mill, they used to cut through from one end of the wash pit, through the mill to the other. We've done it for a decade, haven't we?
I believe you can comment on this. There's somebody commenting.
It is now past the date.
As it is. I did ask Home Fair Tallies because they're quite keen on these things. So I think they're all done. Item 34, planning policy and guidance, nothing new to note. Are we noting nothing? Item 35, committee budgets for 23-24. To note, the planning committee has one budget line under its remit. This is 4505 Neighbourhood Plan. Its purpose is to support initiatives arising from the Home Valley Neighbourhood Development Plan. Let's see. At the start of the council year, the budget contains £3,000. In earmark reserves, the committee oversees two funds, £3,000 earmarked for the Holmfirth Market project and £7,000 earmarked for road safety. Of this, up to 5,000 has been committed to the purchase of a SID, which is what we were talking about earlier. So this is to note.
Just on the neighbourhood development plan, I know there was a plan to get copies back from those houses who were retiring, because we all had copies, and if that has happened, because obviously new councillors need a
copy.
Yeah.
Can you not download it? Is it not online?
It is on.
Yeah, but
It is online, but it's rather big.
you will want the card, it's better to have a hard copy because it's batting.
Yeah.
And we spend a fortune getting them ringed round and whatnot, so can we retrieve them?
Well, we're going to try. It's on our list. We've still got 5, I think, spare. So
Oh, right.
if we do reach a point where we've got to get more printed, it was about 20 quid each. Obviously, you've got 3,000 quid if you need it. So.
Well, there are 11 of us on this, aren't there? 1 of us existing and got them.
Yeah, can we use those 5 planning committee members and then retrieve the others for the broader council? We might have to offer to send a horse or a donkey to carry them back.
Yeah, I'm going to be tearing Rachel Hobley's out of our hands.
Okay, item 36, publicising the work of the Home Valley Parish Council. To consider recent events or news that this committee wishes to publicise via the press, Parish Council website or social media.
At the moment, is there?
If I can get the SID, we could.
Just one comment, suggestion about liaising with our new communications and whatever the committee's called now, the CACE. They may have thoughts about how best to deal with communicating issues.
They will when they meet, but every committee has this on the end of every agenda, so when we say, was there a particular thing today that we want to make sure is posted and is...
I think that being the case,
because that committee won't know.
That's helpful to know, but it will be useful in the longer term to make sure that committee has a role in coordinating these different
Yes, they
messages.
do. They do. Yeah.
Well, one thing Gemma has started doing is publicising if there's a TTRO, which I think Andy did it for your ward, didn't you? But
yeah, I've stopped now because Tim was doing it.
It will be posted to our Parish Council Facebook page, but also the relevant ward community pages and generally the Homefirth or Homley group, depending on where it is as well.
I think that's quite useful. I think people will appreciate it.
yeah.
You could put it on that club traffic and travel day. That's quite popular.
Okay. So that is the end. Thank you very much.
Fabulous.